Right, in this assignment, you're going to create a rigid body simulation. You're going to make all of these spheres fall into these sections here, and then you're going to separate them by colors so that it looks like all of the spheres separate as they go down. So step one, we're going to press 1 on the number pad to go into a front view so that we have this flat view of the objects, and you're going to duplicate either this one or this one. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Shift D to duplicate. I'm just going to do something simple here. You should be spending a little more time on this, making something that looks better. Okay, we'll need to scale this down a little bit so they can actually fit through our simulation. Okay, so first step, we're going to select one of these environment objects. These are what are going to collide with the ball. And we're going to go to our physics tab, which looks like this moon circling a planet. Click rigid body. And we're going to set the type to passive. Passive means it doesn't move. Then I'm going to drag a box over all of the other objects, so not the sphere that's going to fall, but all the other environment objects. And just make sure that the one you gave the rigid body simulation to is the last one selected, and you'll know because it has a light orange outline. And then you're going to, well, before we do that, we change that to passive. We're going to change this to mesh, the collision's shape. Okay, then I'll select all these. And then we're going to go to object. And we're going to go to rigid body and copy from active. So now all of these share the same rigid body simulation. And this one, before we duplicate it, I'm going to add rigid body and leave it as active. And the shape we can either leave as convex hole or set it to sphere. Do not do mesh for this one. It will slow down the computer a lot. So Shift D to duplicate. You'll want to make sure none of them are intersecting. Okay, and then when we press play, they'll fall through our simulation here. Okay, once they've settled down into their spots here, we're going to add a material to one in each of these. So I'm going to switch to Material Preview, select a sphere, go to the Material tab. Down here it looks like a red and black beach ball. Click New. That'll be our first one. And then I'm going to go into wireframe so I can select all of these spheres without selecting the stuff behind it. And go back into Material Preview and make sure that the one that's blue is the last one selected. And then you're going to press Control L and click on Link Materials. You can also use this drop down right here in the Materials tab and do Copy Material to Selected. Okay, so I'm going to add a new one here, change the color, green, going into wireframe mode. Shift Z is the shortcut, but you can also click up here. And press Control L, link materials, add a new material, change the color, select those, link the materials. Looks like we only had one in here, so I'll just add that. That's fine. Link the materials. Okay. So now when they go through their simulation, they're all mixed up at the top, but then they separate into the proper areas. You may also want to add a material to the backdrop so you can actually see things a little bit better. Okay, now to bake these, what we'll do is we're going to select our objects and go to Object, Rigid Body, and we're going to go Bake to Keyframes, and then we'll click OK. And it takes a second, but now we have keyframes for the simulation, and it will always remain the same. So if anything changes, it will remain the same.